Hey guys, let us talk about last night's episode of Once Upon a Time. And there was kind of a big shocker in this episode. Let's talk about that first. Now, I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back. Here we go. Because I actually figured it out ahead of time. I thought in my head, oh my gosh, what if? And my what if turned out to be right. But I was still kind of shocked when they revealed to us that Peter Pan is actually Mr. Gold's father. So we got this flashback. We got to see the first time that Mr. Gold and his father came to Neverland. And we get that Neverland was really created by Mr. Gold's father. You know, like in his imagination when he was a kid. So when Rumple gets this magic bean as a kid, he and his father head off to Neverland. But because his dad is an adult now coming to Neverland, the magic there doesn't really work. And so what he has to do is he has to give up his son. If he gives up his son, then he can regain his youth. So he chooses to do that, and we actually see him turn into Peter Pan. It just made me even more sad for Mr. Gold. And you know, we get the parallels, right, between the two fathers, you know, that really abandoned their sons. Mr. Gold's dad did it to him, and then he did it to Bay. But I loved it when Mr. Gold made the point that they were different, because after he abandoned Bay, he realized his mistake. And then he really did all that he could to reunite with his son. So eventually everybody that's on the island to rescue Henry reunites, but nobody trusts Mr. Gold. I think this is really kind of the first time ever that I've kind of felt bad for him, because you get that he really is trying to do the right thing, but his past won't let him, you know? People don't trust him, and that happened for a reason. Let's talk about Henry, right? Last week, when Peter Pan told Henry that he needed the heart of the truest believer to save the island, I took that to mean that he literally needed his heart. And sure enough, that was the case. So once all of the adults figure out what's going on, they all rush over to try to help Henry, but Pan has put like a protection spell on Skull Rock. So the only person that can actually cross over this barrier is Mr. Gold, because he doesn't have a shadow. So he goes to save Henry. He's got Pandora's box. By this time, we realize that Peter Pan is his dad, and so you have this kind of reunion between the two of them, and, you know, it's not so warm and fuzzy. Pan really tries to tempt him, and, you know, I don't believe a word that comes out of that child's mouth. And so when he's trying to get Mr. Gold to stay with him on the island, we'll be together, blah, 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 Mr. Gold's not buying it. But the problem is that Pan is kind of crafty, and so while they were talking, he actually switched the boxes. So in the end, Mr. Gold ends up getting trapped inside of Pandora's box. Before we go on, let's talk about David for a second, because it looks like we've actually figured out how to get him back to Storybrooke without dying. Turns out that Mr. Gold has become kind of an expert on nightshade, and so he tells them that he can make an antidote once they get back to his shop. So back to Peter Pan and Henry and all that stuff. So Emma and Regina figure out how to magically cause there to be an eclipse so that they don't have shadows anymore and they can cross over the line. They all race in at the last moment as Henry is pulling out his heart to give it to Peter Pan. And then you have this kind of battle of wills. You know, you've got Peter Pan on one side telling Henry, don't trust them, they're adults, they've lied to you. And then on the other side, you've got Emma, Regina, and Neil telling Henry, look, we love you, trust us. And so Henry gets to make the decision in the end. I must say, you know, that I give leeway for Henry because he is a kid, but I was so frustrated with him last night because it was like, Henry, like, come on. But Henry did not listen to me. And did not listen to me yelling at the TV screen. And yeah, he gives Peter Pan his heart. And so we get that that's a problem for Henry because he just kind of drops down to the floor. Another fantastic episode, you guys, in season 3 of Once Upon a Time. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next week, because obviously we get that they're going to do something. They're going to try to figure out how to get Henry's heart back from Peter Pan. And from the sounds of the preview, I mean, like, unexpected things are going to happen. There's a part of me that hopes that they figure out how to do it without killing Peter Pan, because he's just been such a fantastic, delicious villain that I'd hate to see him go. There was no great Hook and Emma moments, you know, just a few little stolen conversations. Anytime the two of them are like gonna talk to each other, I'm like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? I'm so excited. But, you know, nothing to report in this episode. I'm sure there will be more Captain Swan in our future. Okay, you guys, as always, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to check out my other Once Upon a Time reviews. I do them every single week, so you should subscribe so that you can see me every week. Okay, you guys, bye.